This is inCitu's 11th webinar. Amazing. We started doing these so that our community could learn from one another and explore new ideas and use cases together. And it's been really amazing so far. You can check out our full archive of webinars and talks from our YouTube page. Don, if you could put the link in the chat. There's some really good stuff in there. So before introducing our guest this month, allow me to share a little bit about inCitu and what we do. So inCitu is a startup on a mission to bring the future of cities to life and foster better conversations around urban change. What does that mean? So we're built on the idea that the best place to talk about cities is from the street corner. We use mobile location-based augmented reality to meet people where they are and turn complex planning data into something that anybody can see, understand, and engage with. We've been at this since 2020, and we work with AEC companies, city governments, developers, and technology products. So urban professionals from places like Washington, D.C., Phoenix, New York City, they're integrating AR and experiential methods into their work and pursuing projects on everything from housing and climate resilience to infrastructure and transit. This is how our web-based no-code platform works and how we support self-sufficient iterative workflows. You can see the 3 AR modes available here. There's the on-site mode in real scale, on location, the tabletop mode, we call it, the interactive mode, where you can see a model from anywhere, and we have a web project page as well. And aside from the AR, we do a lot of design for on-site activations, everything from signage to the event programming for engagement, tours, walks, and self-guided tours and talks, workshops. We also support storytelling on social media and community engagement campaigns that our clients are running so that AR is used to actually create compelling stories that are shared out. So a big part of making all of this as seamless as possible is how we connect with the tools and the data that AEC professionals are already using every day. And today's webinar is about exactly that. We're showcasing a new integration between inCitu and Autodesk Data Exchange that takes this connection to a new level. So to walk us through how that works, I'm thrilled to welcome Lejla Secerbegovic, Product Manager for Autodesk Data Exchange, a platform designed to replace static file transfers with something much more powerful. Welcome, Lejla, and a little bit about Lejla. She is a licensed architect in Germany and product manager for Data Exchange at Autodesk with a focus on data interoperability. And Lejla, the floor is yours.
Thanks so much, Nick. I'm thrilled to be here and to give everyone a short overview of what a data exchange is and why I find the whole integration in the inCitu app so exciting as well. So to get started with data exchange, I just want to give you a quick overview of the Autodesk data vision as such. So for the ones of you who may be new to Autodesk, our data vision is basically based on these 3 pillars. The first one is about breaking up files into the granular data, which can be used in a more flexible way than the monolithic files can be used. The second one is the data interoperability, which now has the aim to exchange this data, this granular data in between tools and services. And the third pillar is data accessibility, which obviously aims to make this data available and accessible where and whenever you need it. And data interoperability is obviously what we are talking about today. This is basically what we do with data exchange. And to get started with that, I want to quickly explain you why actually granular data is so groundbreaking when it comes to data interoperability. It basically allows us to share curated subsets of data instead of files. And the reason why this is so groundbreaking is basically that when you think of sharing files, then we know that files can be really big and contain a lot of data, of elements you don't really need or you don't want to share. Sometimes these files might also include your IP. Some advanced Revit families, for example, you don't want to share with everyone. Or if someone is meant to work only in a specific area of the building, then you don't need to share the whole file with him, because it is not always clear how the file was built, and the other side would also eventually need to dismantle half of the model only to access the relevant elements. And if we think of the same workflow by sharing subsets of data, this really allows us to share only the items which the other side really needs. This also allows you to protect your IP by sharing really only the relevant information and nothing more and nothing less. And of course, we also maintain the connection to the original, which means that whenever you update your source file, the data exchange can also be updated very easily, so that we make sure that everyone is working with the latest set of data. And how does this work in detail? Basically, if you think of your design file, which has all the data you are working on, you can use a data exchange connector, which we'll see in a second how exactly that works to really extract a subset of data. That subset of data is not a file, as we mentioned. It is really like a database. So basically a data exchange, which lives on the ACC. So it never leaves this secure environment in which the Autodesk users are working. It is stored on the ACC, on the Autodesk docs, and from there it can be consumed with our data exchange connectors for various workflows, for coordination, documentation, dashboarding, or also for other workflows, like in this case for the augmented reality workflow with the inCitu app. And the great thing about data exchange is that once you have created it, the same data exchange can be used by all the apps, by all the connectors which are available, and you don't need to create a separate one, for example, to be used in the Revit environment, a separate one in the Power BI dashboard, and separate one to be used in the augmented reality, in the inCitu app. It's always the same subset of data which you can use across all of these connectors. And just to give you a quick overview, which connectors are available out of the box. So we have a range of connectors which are ready to use and which we developed also on our own. So we have these so-called cloud connectors, which you can use through the ACC, which do not require any kind of download or an installation. That is the Autodesk Revit connector, which we will also see in a minute. Then the IFC connector, so you can also extract data exchanges from the IFC files through the ACC. The Microsoft Power Automate connector is a little bit different. It allows you to automate some workflows and to extract data from the data exchanges on ACC. Then we have these generally available connectors. These are our main connectors, which you can download through the Autodesk App Store. These are basically plugins for your desktop software, which allow you to create or also to load data exchanges. And then we have also a range of beta connectors, which you can download through our feedback community and test as well. So to show you a little bit how this really works. I have a couple of videos. So here in this case, you can see basically how the Revit user can prepare his subset of data. So we don't have any complex mapping files or settings you need to compile. You can simply use the built-in tools like filters or even the section box to define which elements you want to share. And once you have defined these, you could now either use the connector from the Revit environment, which we will see in a minute, or you could share, you could simply save this Revit file on the ACC and use the ACC cloud connector. And this is what we will see now. So basically now we see the Revit file on ACC, and here you can simply select any 3D view which has been published to ACC and create a data exchange out of it. You can select a folder where this data exchange can be stored, and then this data exchange can be viewed on ACC like any other file, but it really contains only the data which you have specified, and it will also be automatically updated whenever you update your Revit file. So this is basically how the cloud workflow works, and the same data exchange as mentioned could now be used also in the inCitu app. To show you a little bit more about how data exchanges are used in the design workflow, let me quickly show you here now the other way to share a data exchange from Revit. So in this case, we are using the connector, which has been previously downloaded and installed. And here in the connector, you have several different options. You can, of course, again, select folder on ACC where this data exchange will be stored. You can then also have several other options, like, for example, whether you want to include or also exclude the Revit link elements, whether you want to include rooms and spaces. We can also have these as a geometry in the data exchange. You can again specify which view you want to use if it is not the view which you currently have open. And then you can also filter by the categories as well. So you could still limit the view, and you will always see the preview here. So a data exchange is really a lot about what you see is what you get. So you really see the preview, and the data exchange we create only has the elements you see here in the preview. Again, the data exchange can be reviewed on ACC. It cannot be downloaded because, again, it's not a file, but it can be reviewed and it can be loaded by other connectors as well. In this case, we are loading it with the Autodesk Inventor. And the Inventor user is using it to configure the balconies in this case, which he then again shares as a data exchange with the Revit user. And then the Revit user is again able to load these exchanges and also maybe to update his file and also share, in this case, some requests with the Inventor user through the ACC. So the data exchanges support all the Autodesk Construction Cloud workflows, like in this case, the comments and the issues, which then can be used for the communication. Once we have received the updated file from the Inventor user, then the data exchange can also be used for the documentation, which means that you can load these elements and you can tag them, you can schedule them, you can also use them in all the sheets and views, and they are typically used for very stable documentation workflows. Again, the same files can also be used in other software, for example, in this case, in a third-party tool, Tekla structures where the same data exchanges can be loaded again, which means you really have a thread which goes through all the tools and allows you to use the data in a very flexible way as a reference without worrying too much about any kind of settings of mappings. You can always, of course, also adjust these, but in this case, we are able in general to see what we are sharing, and this is a pretty straightforward. And this goes all the way to other tools, as you have seen before in the overview of our data exchange connectors. We can also load the same data exchanges, for example, in the Rhino software, where it can then be used for other workflows as well. And at the end, it can also be used in the Power BI for dashboarding the data, because data exchange is not only about the geometry, it is actually about the data, and that means also the metadata which is attached to the elements. Now to show you a little bit what our customers are doing with data exchange, I have a couple of nice examples. For example, WSP is using data exchange to make their designs and their coordination models available to everyone, regardless of their BIM skills and regardless of their actual access to the BIM tools. In this case, they are using Navisworks to create some 4D simulations based on the project schedule. And since not everyone is really familiar with Navisworks or able to use it, they have pulled this data as a data exchange and then loaded it into the Power BI, and then shared the dashboard basically on the web, so that everyone who has the access to the dashboard and a web browser is able to use this data. And as they mention themselves, this really makes it much easier to work with the data and to make the BIM data really also accessible to everyone. A very similar approach is also used by another customer, the construction company Eiffage, who had a very complex bridge renovation project in France with many different stakeholders. And they also had a similar challenge like WSP to communicate the complex timetable and schedule in which the work needed to be done. And they did it as well using a Power BI dashboard, which allowed them to share this data in a way that it could be also easily understood on site, but by all the contractors who were not even able to use a 3D tool or to work with BIM software, but they were able to view the dashboard in a web browser and every day check what needs to be done when, and also immediately see in the viewer where exactly the work is being done on that day. And now thinking further and having a look at the great inCitu integration, I think it would have been even more amazing to have the same data exchange then also available on the smartphone, because everyone has a smartphone these days, and to be able to also see it in the context on the site. That's about this use case, but there is actually a lot more to it, because you are not limited by the connectors which we build. We know that we cannot build all the connectors for all the tools out there, right? Which is why we also work on our GraphQL API and the .NET SDK, which basically allow anyone else, like in this case also inCitu, to build their own connectors to basically work with data exchanges to create or load data exchanges, and by doing so to also extend the data exchange ecosystem. So I hope this provided you a quick overview of a data exchange. I'm happy to answer any questions which might be left after this. And I would also like to leave you with this link. I will also share it later in the chat, which basically has all the links related to data exchange, and also the links to our webinars where you can learn more about the workflows which I just mentioned.
Thank you so much, Lejla. We've got a few questions in the chat. If I would ask if we could just wait, we're going to demonstrate our integration and then we'll hit all the Q&A together at the end. Feel free to keep adding your questions in the chat. I'm just going to take over the screen share here and just pick up where we left off. So this is sort of from inCitu's point of view, our integration ecosystem, and how we conceptualize how we fit in to this landscape is basically we are the C and AR button, and we want to make that C and AR button available anywhere and everywhere that you're working. So on the input side, we allow direct uploads of 3D content. We have integrations with various products, including in the Autodesk ecosystem, Esri ecosystem, and we actually already developed an integration with Autodesk Forma, although the whole landscape of how these tools are situated in Autodesk is changing, and got to ask Lejla a lot about that coming up. But their newest integration with Data Exchange is sort of taking that even further, so that you can get any content into AR and get that C and AR button attached. On the output side, you can bring that content into AR via on-site signage, mobile tabletop AR, as well as web maps and analytics. And then we also have a host of third-party integrations and embeddables compatible with various tools. So if you wanted to take your tool from Revit, make it into a story map on ArcGIS, or build it into a third-party engagement platform that your city is using, we're trying to connect that all up seamlessly. So I'm going to show how our integration looks today. This integration was developed by our engineer, Christian Toth, who's in the chat. So if you have any technical questions, or if I get anything wrong, please throw a question at Christian. So we're going to pick up where Lejla left off from the construction cloud, and we've taken the selection of our building model that we need for AR. So really, usually it's just the outer shell, and we're targeting a lower level of detail. We've created a data exchange for that here, and we're about to bring it into inCitu. So from the data exchange, we can view our model and view the data that we're bringing over. What you see is what you get, just like Lejla mentioned. We're copying the URL of this data exchange, and then from inCitu, we're going to sign in with Autodesk. And once we're signed in and connected, then we can actually paste that data exchange link directly in, and it will upload directly to our platform. And so this is a new AR project. This is what you would see after the upload stage. And from here, there is a scene editor here too. So there's two places where you can adjust the content. One is in Revit before you create the data exchange, and one is in our inCitu scene editor, where you can further toggle meshes on and off and move things around and adjust pivot points, which is significant for AR purposes. And then you can also see the file size preview, and we support up to 35 megabyte models. So you've seen here, we were able to take just the parts of that big Revit model that allow us to work within that size and bring it in here to inCitu. So the next step in inCitu is to place that model somewhere on the map. And this is where the model will live in the on-site AR mode. Then we give the project a name, and you can add a description and a thumbnail for the app clip cards. So the users that don't have to have our app installed to view it, but they will see some information on their instant app and app clip cards there. And then once you create the project, it creates a QR code that is cross-platform, no app download QR code that leads to this project. And if you're on site, you'll see it at real scale. If you're off site, you'll see it in the tabletop mode. So that once that project is created, you're good to go. And then this is how the web view of that project would look. And then since I'm not in Florida, I copied in how this project would look here in New York on the ground. So once you get out on the street, you scan your phone and the project will load in. And then from here, you have one more opportunity to adjust a project in AR directly using inCitu's AR edit mode. So in the top right corner, you can toggle and actually adjust the positioning of the model and the scale, the altitude directly. So you can really fine tune and get it looking exactly how you need from your viewpoint. When you save that, all the viewers will be able to see those adjustments. And so this lets you get the most accuracy out of the current state of AR and actually get off the street grid and out onto some beaches and in parks, thanks to being able to set those edit mode offsets. So this project is available now. If you want to try it out on your tabletop or floor, just scan this QR code. And you'll be prompted to open your camera and point at a flat surface and tap your phone screen to see this Autodesk demo model in AR. I don't know if anyone else has put this demo into AR yet. I think it looks really great. If anybody's having any issues, just DM Donna or Christian in the chat, and we'll help you check it out for yourself. Lejla, I did want to ask, just leading into the Q&A portion, about this change that's happening, because when we developed our first integration, it was for Autodesk Forma, which is a web-based sort of early stage site, georeferenced site research tool. And I hear that this web-based platform is actually becoming much more important to Autodesk, such that actually Autodesk Construction Cloud is going to be renamed to Autodesk Forma soon. So what does that shift signify, and where are you going with this web-based stuff?
Yes, so I think we have announced on the Autodesk University already that you know we are basically we have these three industry clouds, and Forma is actually the AC industry cloud. It was meant basically to be the cloud platform from the beginning, and it is only like a case that the Forma site design, the tool actually is also called Forma. So on March 24th, we will be renaming the Autodesk Construction Cloud to Forma, which means what we are calling the Autodesk Construction Cloud, or the ACC today, will basically be Forma. And Forma, which you are referring to, or which we know as the tool, is the Forma site design, and there will be a lot more other variations and flavors of Forma in the future. And basically, long story short, Forma stands for the Autodesk Cloud, and all the tools that build on top of this cloud are subsets of Forma, so to say, or
So I think
flavors of
what's really
Forma. Yeah.
exciting for this about for me is just like we can look forward to a lot more web-based real-time 3D tools, as well as the connectivity that Data Exchange is offering. And so inCitu, as another web-based 3D tool, we understand that like the entire industry is undergoing a shift towards this sort of real-time 3D use cases, from game engines to mobile AR. And so being able to speak fluently in this format and this level of detail, this type of 3D content, is becoming more important. We do a lot of training around this with our enterprise clients, and I think it's so great that like these new standards and workflows are emerging, and it's so quick as well. So inCitu's Data Exchange integration is now available on the Autodesk App Store. We just launched this, so it's very fresh, and we really appreciate your feedback and help testing it as we continue to develop it. So do give it a try if you're a Revit user, and let us know what you think and if we can help you figure out your way around it. So we also have a handbook if you're once you get the AR working and you have to design a stakeholder communication or a public engagement campaign and try to leverage the AR. We have a guide on some tips for that directly from our community. So if you're interested, you can give this a scan and check out our handbook for public engagement. This is also the link that Lejla shared earlier with more info and goodies from Autodesk. And with that, I think we'll open up the floor to some questions. So, anybody has any questions for us, for Christian who developed the integration, or for Lejla about data exchange? Now's the time. Go back and see back from the very top. We've got a question from Ariel. Is data exchange available for Civil 3D 2026 yet?
Yeah, so my colleague Rakesh already responded to this in the chat. Thanks for joining, Rakesh. I can also quickly respond to that. So we are indeed working on a cloud connector for Civil 3D, which should be available later this year, which will be working in a similar way like what we saw with Revit, and which will allow you to create data exchanges from Civil 3D files on ACC. We currently do have a beta version of a Civil 3D connector which can be downloaded. However, that is a very early beta, and we don't necessarily recommend using this connector, but waiting for our Civil 3D Cloud connector, which will be released soon.
Great. We have another question from Samak who asks about inCitu and if we only support static 3D. If what you mean by that is models that have animations or interactions baked into them, we don't support that just yet, although it's something that's been on a roadmap for some time. But for now, it's static building models. We do support PBR textures, and the interactive mode of our AR does support moving the model around, changing the scale, and stuff. For simulations, what the workflow that I would recommend, and Forma, the site planner tool was a great example of this. If you're doing stuff like temperature, solar, or wind calculations, I would recommend inCitu not as a tool for simulation, but a tool for presenting the results of those simulations. So one thing you might do is say, bake the results of a simulation as a texture onto the massing and then present it in AR after that, if that makes sense. There are some things that AR may be good for in terms of simulation. One is testing sightlines and view sheds, and another could be shadows. So you possible to bake some shadows into your 3D model at a certain time of day. You might check that time of day in an Autodesk tool or like an Esri tool like ArcGIS or Urban, get the shadow data out into a 3D model and then present it on location. We don't do live shadow calculation yet, but there may be more frontiers for simulation live in AR as the technology develops further. That's definitely a really exciting use case. Anyone else have any questions? So I'm curious, just starting to wrap my head around data exchange a little more, the difference between sending files back and forth and editing data directly. Can you talk a little more or reiterate about the two-way nature of this? Like, if you're passing data exchange out to a tool like inCitu, we're sort of like the endpoint view mode. And so we're just sort of a place where people are going to view the data, and maybe the feedback comes in the form of the conversations that emerge from that, the notes that emerge from that. But if you're collaborating on data directly and adjusting something that's been sent over data exchange, does that feedback the other way to the original Revit project, or how would that work?
Yeah, so when you share a data exchange, basically, then you load it through the connector, and whenever the sender or the creator of the data exchange updates his original file, he can either use the connector if he's using the desktop tool to update the data exchange, or if a cloud connector is used, and that's the power of the cloud connectors, we auto update the data exchange. So if you publish a new version of the Revit file, then the data exchange will seamlessly be updated. And every connector which has consumed the data exchange will also be able, will be notified that there is a new version available, and that person can then load the new version of the data exchange. So it is kind of a very seamless process which avoids, that step, which we often see in the design workflows where the architect or the structural engineer needs to think of, oh, I need to export a new IFC file or whatever to share it with the other stakeholders. You don't need to think about that anymore because if you use one of our cloud connectors, we do that seamlessly as soon as you update your design file.
Great. I have one more question about sort of 3D and levels of detail. And I remember when we got to know the community of users for Autodesk Forma, there was a problem that they had that we have in common, which is that a lot of folks working in BIM are working on files that are quite large and they're designed for construction, for engineering. And more, we have these tools that are designed for communication using interactive real-time 3D. And so there's a need for better optimized models with maybe a different type of materials, a different type of look and feel to them. Um, and even though BIM as a standard has this specification for lower levels of detail, I think the reality is that a lot of people are not building their models with those in mind, or even necessarily following labeling guidelines. But it's becoming easier and easier, like with this workflow, to create optimized or cheaper versions of these models for interactive tools. What do you see? What do you think about this friction point and overcoming it? Is a question of education, new standards, or just sort of leveraging AI to make it easier to automate, say, creating a 35 megabyte version of this 6 gigabyte file?
I think an AI workflow would be amazing. We are still not there that we can simply say, hey, I want really a small size and of this model. Today, we still rely a little bit on ourselves to specify which data we actually need. So, for example, if we have, like in this case, an AR scene, then the architect will want to decide, what's relevant and what's not relevant. And we often see those models which have plants and some very small details and stuff included, which makes such a scene incredibly heavy and which is not needed at all. And I think what is simplified a lot by data exchange is the fact that we can share only what we see. A lot of our of other workflows have complex setups, like for example, when you export an IC file, you have a lot of settings and mapping files available and so on, which are often a little bit overwhelming for the people. And data exchange allows you to do this, by simply using the view filters. So you can simply check, okay, what can I see in this view? You can even section the view. And then once you only have the elements which are relevant for this specific use case, you can easily extract it. And the idea of the subsets is also very powerful because I can have one Revit file and I can basically extract several subsets for different use cases. Like, for example, the one for the inCitu workflow, I can have a separate one for the Power BI workflow and another one for the structural engineer. And whenever I update this, my one Revit file on ACC, then we would basically update all the data exchanges which are associated with it. So it makes this whole process a lot more seamless once we have specified once which elements based on the categories, on views, whatever best fits a specific use case, then basically the updating becomes seamless if we use a cloud connector.
Very interesting. If anyone else has any question, jump in. Otherwise, I'll keep on going. We've got about 10 minutes left. And Donna just put a link to a survey about our webinars and how we can improve them. So if you have a couple minutes to fill out a quick survey, save that link in the chat. I guess I really only have one more question, Lejla, which is this level of connectivity not only depends on the technology that you're developing, but also I would say like a friendly relationship across different companies and products. And so clearly like something has shifted because I do remember a time where there were a lot of moats in this environment. And it's kind of amazing to see the past few years, like how many sort of third-party partnerships and integrations have launched across some major players in this industry. Can you speak a little bit to that and like you are hosting some connectors like directly to your competitor products as well? So I think that's kind of amazing. What is the problem that you know this all or like why now and what is the need that the industry has that convinced everybody to start to build bridges?
Well, I think the bridges have kind of always been there. They have not just always been so simple. I think that, cloud platforms and this granular approach to data makes it a little bit more simple to build the bridges. And, when we think about the many tools we need to use across various workflows and across various projects, then we need to be able to share the data because at the end of the day, it is not about the tools, it is about the data. And data interoperability makes no sense if, we are limiting it only to our own software or if anyone only collaborates with their own tools because our users use a lot of different tools across the project and they need to be able to share the data between the tools in a seamless way. And I've always been very passionate about data interoperability and also working a lot with other industry standards, like for example with IFC and there are a lot of frictions also because architects and the engineers and everyone working on the project they don't want to spend hours, days, months learning about a standard just to be able to use it. They just want to share the data in a seamless way. And that's basically what we are trying to do to make this whole workflow of sharing data seamless and yeah, easy to use, no matter if you want to share your data with someone working with another BIM software, with someone who wants to visualize it in a Power BI dashboard, or like in your case, in an augmented reality app.
Very cool. Absolutely. Yeah, it's absolutely not just the companies, but across disciplines as well. I've heard so many discussions around how, especially architects for some reason, how architects prefer to work versus the standards that are emerging. I thank you so much. I would offer an opportunity, Lejla, to shout out any opportunities for folks to get involved in the data exchange community, shall we say? Like, is there a developer community and is there any upcoming events where folks can learn more about who is building for this?
Yeah, absolutely. So I shared previously our link list. So we have so many links that we have decided, we will create just one link list to rule them all. We cannot share these separately. So on the link list, you will also find the link to our next webinars. So we have currently a bi-weekly webinar series, and we also have the recordings to the previous webinars. So no matter if you would like to check out, the Revit Inventor workflow, for example, we just had a webinar a couple of days ago, or the Power BI workflow, you can find the recordings and the links to the webinars there. And then also we have mid-April, the Autodesk DevCon. It is a 2-day conference happening in the Netherlands, in Amsterdam. And that is basically a very exciting on-site event where you are able to meet a lot of developers and customers who are basically using the Autodesk Cloud platform to develop their own tools and solution. And that's definitely an event that is not only suitable for developers as such, but also for anyone who is also interested in technology, AI, MCP servers, and using the APIs in a new way.
Amazing. And I'll give another event shout out on our end. We're going to have a panel at South by Southwest on March 16th in Austin, Texas, featuring two of our amazing urban planner clients, one from Tampa, one from Kauai, and they're going to be discussing XR for communicating climate resilience. So if you're going to be in Austin for South by Southwest, feel free to drop by and say hi, and drop a line to us, because we'd love to get together. So thanks everybody. Thank you everybody who's starting out in the chat. It was really great to have you here. We're excited for all the possibilities with this. So please reach out, book a demo with us, book a call, and we can get in and explore some workflows with this stuff. We're super excited.